Your child spends 3/4 of their waking hours in their school shoe, and most parents have no idea if they're wearing the right one. In this episode, we're going behind the scenes on what you need to know when picking the perfect school shoe. We're joined by Sophie McLellan, podiatrist and founder of Little Big Feet, a kids podiatry practice in Scobie, a podiatrist-designed school shoe range. We cover everything from fit and durability to matching the shoe to your child's lifestyle. This is essential listening for any parent heading into the school shoe season. Let's get into it. Welcome, Sophie.
Great. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Great to have you here. And I guess as we start, I'd just like to ask a question and then we can refer back from that. Yep. What is important in a school shoe today?
Oh, there are so many things that are important in a school shoe, and it really depends on what the parent is looking for. So anytime I'm recommending a school shoe to a parent, the first thing I usually ask is, what's the top of your priority? So is it we're trying to meet a uniform policy? There is no uniform policy, so we're looking for another feature. For example, my podiatrist, my physio, whatever, has asked for a supportive shoe. Or is it your first priority is a Velcro because we can't do lace? So I think it depends entirely on the parent as to what their priority is in selecting the school shoe.
And I guess in terms of age bracket as well, doesn't it? Like senior
definitely.
versus junior is a big difference,
Yep, 100%. So we would see heaps of kids that just cannot do shoelaces, and we find more and more now the kids' feet are getting bigger and bigger, and so most brands out there, if you know, like most US athletic footwear brands, your Asics, your Nike, whatever comes to mind, majority of them do stop their Velcro at around a size 3. So the last size is a 3. And then once they go into 4, they have to move into a lace.
Right.
And that happens a lot with a lot of school shoe brands. So once they hit that 4, the parents get a bit concerned. I've now got to tie up shoelaces. My child doesn't know how to do it. So in a clinical setting, we're constantly trying to find workarounds for those kids because their feet, they might still be only 7 years old, but they're in a size 4 because they've got big feet. And so we're trying to find workarounds for them, like elastic laces and other, ways of subbing.
So what is a size 3? What's an age bracket for a size 3?
Well, typically a size 3 might sort of be a child that's around about grade 3, thereabouts.
Okay.
That's probably the best way of, as a rough guide.
Okay.
But there are so many children younger now. We can see kids in prep or their first year of schooling going into a size 3 shoe.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yep.
And in terms of school shoes, are most black still?
Yes, I would say 90%. Anecdotally, 90% of people are looking for a black school shoe.
I'd love to merchandise it better, but we just can't do it.
No.
And that's just a bit of backstory for some of our listeners that might not have been introduced to Sophie before. If it sounded like Sophie really knows what she's talking about, it's because she really, really does. Sophie is one of the founders of Little Big Feet Podiatry in Brisbane, which is one of the only paediatric podiatrists in Australia, if I'm
one of very few. That's correct.
Very few. So very specialised, dealing with school kids and their issues in their development. And even more interesting is Scobie, the brand that we have in the Comfort Code now. That's yours as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that was something that we founded, my husband and I, Jason, many years ago, and now proud to say that it's across here at the Comfort Co. So we do have a lot of experience and background there in sort of the R&D, the development, the design of all the footwear, and everything pertaining to school shoes, which was sort of our priority area. And for us, it's always been, kids spend 3/4, if not more, of their time in their school shoe. So for us, the school shoe is like the most important, it's like your number one shoe. Don't worry about the rest so much. If we concentrate on the school shoe and get it right, that's the most important shoe for a child.
Yeah, and that's it's actually great that you've got that background because today's all about looking at the second generation Scobie shoes in a way in terms of what our next development is. So that's exciting that you know inherently where the brand started, which is exciting for us.
Yeah, it's as I said, it's very exciting to have you here because it's personal for me now. It's I have my eldest daughter. She is starting school as of next year. Really scary. Time flies, doesn't it? And so the shoes that we develop here are the shoes that she'll be going into school with. So that's
fantastic.
I'm working at the right job, isn't it? Yeah, perfect. So I thought I'd just rip in really quickly. We did ask our audience before, if we are going to be developing the best pair of school shoes to have ever existed ever, what are your qualms? What are things that you've dealt with in the past? We're getting that real world kind of insights before, and we had a few responders actually. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go through a couple of those. Well, first things first, we had a little, what out of these issues is the most important for your kids' school shoes when looking at it. And something that came up with every single response was durability.
Yeah.
For example, this one here. So it says, my son goes through a pair of formal school shoes every term. We buy him good, expensive ones from Athlete's Foot because he has a wide foot and a wide instep. And within weeks, the shoelaces snap and break. The sole sometimes comes away from the shoe. He has a wide foot and need wide shoes, which not many places have. And we've been told that he puts a lot of pressure on his heel, so he gets a lot of heel and Achilles pain.
Yeah.
So how could we kind of rectify that?
Durability, I'm not surprised at all, Ben, that you said that, because that's a massive one for us. Like, we see that clinically every day. Parents are coming in into our store and their main concern is durability. So is
it because a lot of them treat them like running shoes?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? So you're not wrong there, Jeff, because so often I say to parents, first and foremost, you need to make sure that the shoe you select matches your child's use.
Yes.
So if you buy this beautiful premium leather school shoe and your child, it might be really soft, supple leathers, and that's great, because then if your child's a bit sensory and a bit fussy, those leathers are going to be great and well tolerated by your child, but perhaps they're not going to be the most durable. So then that child sits down at lunchtime cross-legged, they're scratching up the leather, they're playing handball at lunchtime, or foursquare handball, whatever you want to call it. And then those kids are dragging their toes around, scuffing up all the front of their leather, and then those parents wonder why their shoes aren't holding up. So I think it's so important that you choose the shoe that best matches your child's activity. And yes, it is difficult because, like you're saying there, that that person has said, we've got a wide foot, we're looking for these features, we need extra width, and then not only that, they need features for the child's foot, then they're trying to also tick the boxes for the school uniform, because they might say, I need a little stepped heel, I need, it needs to be full black leather.
So is that full on the school uniform? You can't, there's no compromise, like you can't go with a sort of an athletic black, full black?
It depends on the school. So we find, generally speaking, that a lot of schools, particularly private, some of the Catholic schools and so forth, will be really they'll be quite firm in regards to their uniform policy. And then others we find are a little bit more accommodating, and they might say, no, we don't need, full grain leather upper, and they can get away with more of the synthetic leather, the leather lookalike type, more like athletic
faux
style.
Leather.
Yeah, faux leather, providing that it is still, 100% all black. Yeah.
Do you get many parents that, to your point first, I think that was a really good point. What is the application? What do you do? Do you get many parents that buy two? Is it acceptable to the child to have a running shoe and a dress shoe? Is that allowed?
Yes. Well, we find a lot of the schools will actually require two. So they'll require the formal black leather shoe, which typically is going to be a black lace up with a little stepped heel, quite formal looking.
Yep.
And then the other shoe would be their sport shoe on the days that they wear their PE uniform.
Great.
And so that one oftentimes might be the one that's allowed a bit of colour, or it might be, some schools we have often say predominantly white for that one. But yes, the black school shoe will be the majority of the week.
So this is a really good point, because so they go with their dress shoe, their formal shoe, right?
Yep.
Are they allowed to wear the athletic shoe at lunchtime?
No, so this is what happens with the durability, because they're wearing that black school shoe. And look, I've got 2 teenage kids. My son is the absolute worst. So he comes home from school like sweaty, wet, like his clothes. I pick them up. I'm like, these are wet. And he's like, yeah, I played basketball all lunchtime. What's he playing basketball in? His black formal leather school shoe. Because obviously didn't have PE that day, doesn't take his PE uniform. So they're running around playing basketball.
There's no way around that.
No.
Wow.
Well, I don't think you're going to be able to get, a teenager to change their shoes at lunchtime to play sport.
Okay, well,
absolutely. It's, we do kind of have ways that we can keep that hidden. So we're at some of your schools where it might not be quite as strict. You did mention your Catholic schools and there, don't mess with the nuns. That's something my mum told me back in the day. Don't ever mess with the nuns. So you guys, just look for something durable. You'll be fine. But something like this, I'm guessing, for where you can bridge that gap. So that has your more kind of athletic base there, and but got that mesh folder for the breathability.
But that would be an athletic shoe, will it look? Or
yeah, I often put them in like a bit of a hybrid category. So it's not a full leather upper formal shoe. And the main thing it's missing is that stepped heel. So a lot of schools, when they want a formal shoe, they're really looking for a little heel on it, like just that little step in the heel. So that one being, flatter and lower profile wouldn't tick the box for that formal shoe. But if they are allowed like something more along the lines of an athletic sort of all black style all day, then they would comfortably get away with something like that.
Okay.
And that's a nice little hybrid. It's got your double Velcro on there, reinforced areas with your, which will, help with durability and so forth. The thing I particularly like about that one there, Ben, is you've got your toe bumper that wraps right up around the front of the shoe and also around the back of the heel.
Yes.
And that's, if I'm not wrong, a thermoplastic rubber, so really durable, hard-wearing outsole. And so if a child is playing handball or perhaps riding a scooter to school, that is going to be perfect as compared to something without that toe bumper on the front, which they would just completely scuff up the front of. So
is the step heel, is that for junior and senior in those very...
Yes, certainly we find most children when they're moving into senior school, high school, would, the majority of them would all go into something formal with a stepped heel. In the primary schools, we tend to only notice, so this is more anecdotally, that it's just really the private schools that are looking for that. So a lot of the kids that are sort of in the state system and so forth, like they tend to be a little bit more flexible with their uniform regulation.
Yeah. Okay, so just so we can break it down, just get the first point out of the way. Say I'm a parent looking for some shoes for my moderately athletic grade 3 person, but I'm so sick of them falling apart. What should I be looking for in my shoes?
If you could choose any shoe and that uniform, the uniform policy was just a black leather school shoe. So it doesn't have to be formal. Like if you could choose anything for that grade 3 kid, I would be putting them into more of an athletic, synthetic leather, upper, so more of a jogger. So it's constructed on like a jogger outsole, a jogger sort of last. Okay. Synthetic leather is great because you don't have to polish it. You don't have to do anything really to keep it clean. Just wipe it down, and tends to be like more durable. It doesn't scuff up as much as like, the animal leathers will.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Interesting. And what about the lace question? Like, is it common that laces are breaking regularly and stuff like that? Is that a...
Not often, but I would never ever say that that's like a fault of the shoe or
No,
a
it's
fault
never
of the
a fault of the shoe.
Yeah,
no, I get that.
absolutely.
But is that something that...
Yeah, like it happens from time to time, and kids will come through and, their laces snap. And it's like, that's just a maintenance thing, the same as polishing your shoe. Yep, if it happens to you and your kid might be one of the ones that likes their shoe really firm or does, triple knots and things like that, if you're just wearing the laces quicker than others, just replace them. It's so easy. Yeah.
And what about the width question? Like there was a great comment about width.
Yep.
So are you seeing mostly medium width or...
Yeah, I'd say the majority, like all different brands sort of have their own width profiling. It's not universally the same across them all. So certainly when you consider some of the school shoe brands that people would be familiar with in Australia, perhaps your Clarks or your Ascent, as a couple that come to mind quickly, their width fittings are different. So in something like the Clarks, which is, originates from the UK, we tend to... fit a lot of those in D and E widths, which are sort of like your narrow and, narrow more so probably for the girls, generally speaking, and then an E width being a standard width more so for the boys. Okay. So they'd be the two most common widths that we would sell, but certainly there would be some children that then we need beyond that, an F or potentially a G fitting if they had a really broad, chunky foot. So I would say the majority of kids do fit. I'd say, probably 80% of kids or thereabouts would drop into the main 2 width fittings.
So if you had a shoe, is it best to be a little bit wider than narrower in a shoe, or you really need it quite snug?
You do want your shoe to be quite snug. So if you have movement in a shoe, movement creates friction, and friction will create blistering. So a lot of people actually think their blister has been brought on by a shoe that is too tight.
Right.
But more often than not, when we inspect a child that's got a blister somewhere, it's usually from rubbing and the shoe is actually too loose, whether that's not been done up securely enough or because the shoe is too wide or a size too big.
So you need a genuine wide and a genuine medium if you're going to offer both widths. Really.
I think so. I think you need like your standard fit, and then ideally, in an ideal world, you'd have one either side.
Right.
It's really tricky now, like in the manufacturing space, and we're always explaining this to customers and patients and so forth, that a lot of brands out there now, and particularly since COVID, they don't do, 5 and 6 widths anymore. No. If they do, you're very lucky. The majority of them will just hold the, 1, 2 or 3 width fittings. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting for me. I just want to go back to the comment that we had there. They're buying the top level shoes. They're putting a lot of an investment into it, but they're only lasting a term. Given your background there, do you think that's a problem with, say, fit, or they've picked the wrong shoes for use, or do the kids just go too hard? Like, what's?
Yeah, could be any one of those things. So if that was one of my customers or patients, I'd be saying, come in, because you can't have a shoe lasting just a term. I like to say to parents, ideally you're getting at least 6 months out of a shoe. By that stage, if they haven't outgrown them, then typically you've sort of outworn or given your shoe like enough wear, enough steps, enough mileage that you might be considering replacement. But a term is not long, and particularly because a lot of kids these days are only in them 3 days a week because the other 2 they're wearing their sports shoe. So if I had a parent that was only getting a term out of them, I'd be saying we need to look at another shoe.
Yeah.
If your child is particularly hard on the shoe, then we need to find something that's more durable. Are they collapsing in the heel counter every time? Then perhaps that's how they're putting it on, a bit inappropriate use. You need to untie your laces before you put your shoe on. Yeah. So dependent on what it is that's causing that shoe to not hold up, I would definitely be addressing it and going, no, we can do better than that. Like a term, not really long enough. We can definitely do better.
There's 4 terms, isn't there?
4 terms in the year,
okay. So basically you're saying
2
ideally
terms.
2 terms.
Yeah, great.
That's how you should build. Really, that's what the shoe should last.
Yeah, if you have a child that is not lasting those 2 terms, then 100% you need to consider a different shoe, or we need to have a look at what your child's doing in that shoe. But look, we see a lot of children that come in around September. So they get their January school shoe and they hit the 9-month mark. It's our next biggest period outside of January for school shoes. Right. So a lot of children do get to 9 months, and the parents are a bit frustrated. They couldn't quite get the year, so close to the year. But that would be the most common period. So they're sort of getting 9 months out of their shoe. Yeah. And the really unlucky parents come in 6 weeks after they've bought them, and they've outgrown them, and what can you do?
Yeah, so that was another thing that one of our responders has brought up was they feel they've noticed a distinct drop in quality because they feel like people need to stick into their 20% off back to school sort of thing and might be skimping on that kind of quality materials. Do you think that's something that is happening within the market, or is that just this person's experience?
I do think that it is becoming more of a concern for parents. I think parents, generally speaking, over I'd say this last sort of 10 years, everyone is wanting their school shoe to last the year. They're really concerned about their spend. A lot of parents are not wanting to spend over the $120 mark on school shoes. And then if they do spend that $150, I almost feel like there's a little bit of a sense of remorse in them, like a bit of buyer's remorse or something. Like, I've spent this money, I expect it to really last.
Yeah, correct.
And I feel like that expectation has just become greater over, like, in this past sort of period, particularly as everyday expenses, cost of living has become, greater as well. I feel like people just are expecting more out of their school shoes. But the reality of it is those kids are spending 8 hours, sometimes more, 10 hours a day, call it, in their school shoe, to and from school, 5 days a week, 50 hours a week in their school shoe. The reality is it's not going to hold up the same as my shoe or your shoe. When we're sitting behind a desk, half the day, we've got 6 other pairs we rotate between. Yeah. It's just not the same.
Very unreal.
Yeah.
50 hours in one shoe.
That's right. We have to be really realistic about the expectation of a school shoe.
So I'm just wondering there as well, for all of our parents out there that might be considering, for lack of a better term, cheaping out What are the dangers there developmentally? If you were to go for your $10 Kmart shoes rather than something that's a bit more quality, a bit better put together with different comfort features?
Well, you would assume that, and I think it's a fair assumption to make, that the more you're paying for a shoe, you're also going to get a better quality shoe.
Exactly.
So, I think it is a fair assumption to think that if you're paying $150 for a shoe, it should be lasting longer than a $10 shoe.
Exactly.
But all the technology, the R&D, the construction that you see in a $150 shoe is very, very different to what we see in that lower end. So, for example, a really simple one that most people can relate to is the weight of the shoe. So when we move up in price point, we can start to use more premium products, perhaps like a polyurethane outsole, some of these products that keep a shoe really, really lightweight, really nice cushioned EVA midsole, things like this that are built into the shoe that you just can't do at that lower price point. So you compromise a little bit more so on those benefits and features, comfort features, all of that sort of thing.
Do you ever see patients in your clinics that, kids that are there quite clearly because they haven't got good shoes?
Yeah, 100% of the time. Yeah, it's so common.
That's really scary.
We absolutely do. So, very often for us, parents come through and they have an ailment or a concern with that child's, perhaps their gait, perhaps, they are a bit concerned that, their feet are rolling in slightly, they're in-toeing slightly. I would say that for every 10 of those kids that come through with something quite mild, a couple of those you can address just through good footwear. So just by putting them into the right shoe, the right fitting, that is often, then they don't even warrant having an appointment or an assessment or anything, because all we need to do is just start with really good footwear, and often the footwear alone is treatment enough.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm going to just throw out 3 topics just quickly, just so you get an answer on some of these. There are some topics. One is the fixing of the shoe, right? Lace versus elastic lace, flip and heel, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's your views on that? Because that's something that I think is not in school shoes now, generally, in terms of a lot of the easy on technologies. So that's the first question.
Yeah, so I guess 2 parts there. In terms of closure, the majority of school shoes out there are Velcro or lace.
Yeah.
And it's very much determined by size profile. So up to a 3 or up to an EU 35, you get Velcro. Beyond that, you get lace. Right. That's sort of where it sits at the moment, generally speaking, across most brands. So then there are alternatives for those kids that need a lace-up shoe and can't do laces. You can sub them out for metallic closures like Zubits, elastic laces, things like that. So there are things that parents can do above and beyond the shoe, but they've got to pay additional for it.
But would that be a good thing to build into a shoe or not? Does it reduce your flexibility? Or provide as an alternative?
Yeah, I think it's a good alternative. For example, wouldn't it be great if someone opened up a box and for the kids in that size range that's a bit of a buffer there, you can't do laces, no stress, we've got elastic laces in there, or we've got something else in the box, and then those kids don't feel like I'm a bit different, I can't do it, everyone gets them.
We're just launching it with that sneaker, for example, that the adult sneaker, exactly the same
there you go.
System. That's a great idea.
And then in terms of your you're mentioning the slip in, slip in heel. I haven't seen that to date in a school shoe.
Do you think it would be valuable?
I think it would be valuable, providing the heel counter still offers, is nice and sturdy and still offers good support.
It has to be full.
Yeah, definitely.
That was a bit of feedback we got from a few of our responders as well, was that they quite often get the blisters just around the Achilles.
Yes, yeah. It's common for children to complain of blistering due to the inside of the heel counter here. Sometimes that's due to the positioning of the seam inside, where the seam has been sewn between the leather components. Sometimes it's also because a lot of the shoes, particularly an all leather formal shoe, doesn't have a whole lot of padding, or it's not super soft in there like it is in an athletics shoe. So athletic shoes tend to have built in a nice soft textile hugging around the back of the heel counter. If you could, the other thing that children do with a heel counter is they often crush it and ruin a heel counter because they don't want to undo their laces, or they can't undo them because they don't want to tie them back up again, right? And so they're sliding into their shoe, crushing the heel counter, and then parents are saying, oh, they only lasted 8 weeks because they're literally just crushing the heel counter. So, yeah, amazing. If you could have like a glide in, like you see in some of the adult ranges there.
I think it's
and it still
becoming
offers
more
support.
mainstream now in adult shoes. It could be an interesting investigation.
Absolutely could be.
Another question is, environmental sustainability. Is there any ideas you have, anything you've thought about? Because one of the things that comes up, this perfection world where you can recycle the shoe, put it in the recycle bin and get a new one, and it does its thing.
I think everyone likes to feel like they're doing their part and giving back a bit, particularly in this day and age. And we live in such a wasteful society where we just discard of shoes. And it's really apparent when you've got 1 child, 2, 3, 4 kids, and all you're doing is throwing shoes away every month across the family. So there are, I know there are groups out there that upcycle the outsole and turn them into like the rubbers and so forth, depending on the material, that can then be used in rubber mats and playgrounds and things like that, which is great. But I think it's a really important initiative. So if it's something by the way of you can keep your box, package up your old shoes, send them back in a box, some sort of recycling scenario, I think parents would really appreciate it.
Even if that comes back and there's some sort of donation to some to the
absolutely
or something like that.
Yeah, we have actually been looking at getting programs like that running for our retail store, but let's watch this space, hey? Nothing announced just yet.
What about maintenance of the shoe? Another question I have: machine washable, yada yada yada.
Yes.
Ideas. Come on, you must have a few.
Parents love to know it. I get asked that often. Probably 1 in 5 parents would say to me, "Can I wash the shoes?" Generally speaking, my answer is no, because if the shoe has been adhered, so the construction is it's just an adhesive and it's a glue, then we sort of void any warranty on that shoe if then you put it through a washing machine and your adhesives are starting to be compromised.
Yep.
Also, leather shoes, you obviously can't really get them wet and wash them. So perhaps instead of leathers, you can look at Gore-Tex type products, things like that can tolerate wet weather, dewy sort of weather and so forth.
Which puts the price up.
It certainly does, yes. But absolutely, if something is washable, I guess the main consideration is going to be the construction of the shoe to make sure that it can handle going through, I know there are a few brands out there that can do it, not in the school shoe space that I'm aware of. But certainly if you can wash a child's, particularly a younger child's school shoe, the parents can.
So how do you make it easier to clean then? Obviously, there's 2 elements. One is the outside and then the inside. Now, the inside is antimicrobial treatment something that you look for, or is it in the market now? Yeah,
it is in some brands are there doing that in terms of just their sock liners.
Yep.
So it reduces the smell and the dew, like the dampness that we have inside the shoe. There are also some great products out there that you can pop inside the shoe. Most of those are charcoal based that they're a bit astringent and they draw the sweat and the dampness out of the shoe, which is great. And then in terms of the surface of the shoe, depending on what it's made out of, that will determine how we're going to look after it. So a synthetic leather, super easy, wipe it down. A full grain leather, we are going to have to polish.
So you've said that a few times, and I'll finish up here. You've said that a few times. So it's acceptable synthetic leather then?
100%, yeah.
Interesting.
So, we sell a bucket load of one very, very popular brand has a really great athletic jogger with an all synthetic leather upper, and it's probably one of our absolute top selling school shoes.
Because it's getting better, isn't it? The whole faux leather stuff's amazing.
Definitely.
Just to sum up, to wrap up. So for the Comfort Co, we obviously have our recipe of comfort, which is the 3 things that we put in all of our shoes. You've said that for someone for a school shoe, it's all due to purpose, but would there be, say, a kid's school shoe almost recipe of comfort, things that people should be looking for in every pair of shoes that they buy their kids for school, or does it go down to case?
It would be, my tips would definitely be, look at the activity of that child. So pick based on what your child's using it for. If they're riding a scooter to school, they need a toe bumper, they need something durable. Look at your closure. Decide if you can handle a lace, otherwise you're looking at a Velcro. Consider the upper. So can you get away with a synthetic leather? Do you prefer a full grain leather? And then consider the flexibility, or alternatively, the firmness and support level you want out of the shoe, because that as well will really start to narrow down your options. If you've got a prep kid and you're like early ages and you want something lower profile, more flexible, then definitely you're looking for a very different sort of a school shoe compared to someone that's looking for a very supportive, deeper shoe that they might be trying to fit an orthotic into.
Perfect.
You've done a nice job of the contour in the SCOBY insoles, which is a little bit unique, isn't it? Because so you believe in there's a good reason to have a good contour?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no harm putting a nice contoured footbed with just a mild level of support and comfort under a child's foot. No harm at all doing that. And especially if you've got a kid that perhaps you might think has a really normal foot type, doesn't really require any level of support, you can still go ahead and put them in that shoe. You're only really doing a disservice to a child if they really need support and you don't give it to them.
Perfect. Well, if you don't know where to start, feel free to get in touch with us on our live chat system on the website there. So our comfort concierges will be happy to help. Leave any questions you've got down in the comments. We'd be happy to answer them. It is a pretty high stakes game getting your kids in school shoes, or go see Sophie at Little Big Feet in Brisbane as well.
She's got a full retail shop there and full range of shoes and does a great job.
If you want to take it really seriously, go see the experts.
And
absolutely.
Ben's comment on chats. Any ideas, please just send them through.
We want to hear them.
In the middle of developing the range for the next generation of school shoes. Some of these points we'll take on very seriously because I think there's a lot of opportunities to improve.
Who would have thought half an hour on a podcast isn't enough time to develop the best school shoe ever? But when wheels are in motion, we'll get it done. Keep your ear to the ground. We'll have that for you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the Comfort Walk and Talk by the Comfort Co. If you like this episode and you got something out of it, we would love your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Don't forget to subscribe on your favourite channels and never miss a step on your journey to comfort.
Please follow us for more insights and updates on the Comfort Co social media channels. Until the next episode, see you later.